توكل على الله.
يلا بسم الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. ونهدي للجميع إخواننا المسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات والشهداء ثواب سورة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسن. طيب الله أنفاسك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. رب أرني الحق حقا فأتبعه والباطل باطلا فأجتنبه، ولا تجعله متشابها علي فأتبع هواي بغير علم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Inshallah, we will continue today with lesson number 13 as we continue learning about the self and how to discipline it. We are, of course, now in the treatise of rights. We have been for the last few days. And today we've reached the 13th lesson, which is the right of the father and the mother. First, of course, we'll take a look at the right of the father and the action items that Imam Sajjad has given us with regards to that right. And then we'll look at the right of the mother, which is much longer. And there, inshallah, we will also look at the action items the Imam has given us. So let's get started with the right of the father. Imam Sajjad, salamullahi alayhi, is reported to have said, وَأَمَّا حَقُّ أَبِيكَ, as for the right of your father, فَتَعْلَمَ أَنَّهُ أَصْلُكَ, for it is to know that he is from where you originate. وَأَنَّكَ فَرْعُهُ, and that you are a branch, or you branch out from him. وَأَنَّكَ لَوْلَاهُ لَمْ تَكُنْ, and if it wasn't for him, you would not exist. فَمَهْمَا رَأَيْتَ فِي نَفْسِكَ, therefore whatever you see within yourself, مِمَّا يُعْجِبُكَ, from that which you like, فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ أَبَاكَ أَصْلُ النِّعْمَةِ عَلَيْكَ فِيهِ, know that your father is the origin and of these blessings, or that blessing upon you. The Imam then continues and he says, what I should do then, now that I understand that he's my origin and I branch out from him, now that I understand that if there's anything that I see that is good within me that I like, then I must know that He is the origin of that. Therefore, what must I do? The Imam tells me, he says, وَحْمَدِ اللَّهَ. Therefore, be sure to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَاشْكُرْهُ, and express your gratitude, عَلَى قَدْرِ ذَلك, in that same amount. وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. And there is no power to do so without the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's take a look at the action items then that the Imam has given us. He says, know that you originate from Him and you branch out from Him. That's the first thing. Secondly, he says, know that if it was not for Him, you wouldn't exist. And thirdly, know that whatever you see in yourself that you like, know that your Father is the origin of this blessing upon you. Therefore, he says, thank Allah and express gratitude, meaning thank Him, meaning thank your dad, and express gratitude towards Him, towards your Father, in that amount, in whatever amount it is that is equal to Him giving you life, Him bringing you to this world. So that, of course, that would be very difficult to do, right? Very difficult to do when we think about it.
It's super hard to do.
Yeah. It's the only way really to do it. The only way to be able to be successful in doing so then is to realize that, you know, we're powerless in doing so completely except with the help of Allah, the Almighty, the Unlimited, right? And so that's why our Imam Salamullahi alayhi says to know وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ, that there's no power to do so without the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first thing we have to do then is ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allows us, or that He provides us the means and the ability to be able to do so fully. I do want to mention something here. There is a beautiful dua in Sahifa Sajjadiyya. And we mentioned that Sahifa Sajjadiyya is a book of du'as that was written also by Imam Sajjad Salamullah alayhi, just as this Treatise of Rights was written for us by Imam Sajjad. That in the Sahifa Sajjadiyya, this book of dua, there's a dua in there in which it says that its title is وَكَانَ دُعَاهُ لِوَالِدَيْهِ, and the Imam's dua for his parents was the following. To expand on what are the things that you should do and what mindset should you have with your parents, I highly recommend reading that dua after we're done with the right of the mother, because it really explains to you in extreme humbling detail what the value of our parents should be to us, what our mindset should be when we deal with them, and how much we've actually, you know, whether we know it or not, we haven't done enough for them, even in just how we think about them. So I highly recommend that dua. There's also another dua when we do the right of the child. I'll also mention that the Imam Salamullah alayhi, he has a dua which is entitled وَكَانَ دُعَاءُهُ لِوَلَدِهِ, and this was his dua for his kids. So let's continue to the right of the mother, inshallah. Does anybody have any questions about the right of the father here?
No, Shaykhna, Allah yarham waldik.
Waldik, Allah khalik. The right of the mother. Then, so the Imam Salamullah alayhi, he starts off by saying, فَحَقُّ أُمِّكَ, as for the right of your mom or your mother, فَأَن تَعْلَمَ أَنَّهَا حَمَلَتْكَ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْمِلُ أَحَدٌ أَحَدًا, for it is to know that she carried you where no one carries anyone else. وَأَطْعَمَتْكَ مِنْ ثَمَرِةِ قَلْبِهَا, and that she fed you from the fruits of her heart. Why? Because we were, but fetuses in our mother's wombs, and the way that we were fed was through the placenta and the umbilical cord, through basically the mother's blood and circulation. So obviously what pumps that blood is her heart, and so surely she fed us from the fruits of her heart. مَا لَا يُطْعِمُ أَحَدٌ أَحَدًا, that nobody feeds anyone else. Only a mother can feed her child when he is in the womb with the nutrients in her own blood. وَأَنَّهَا وَقَتْكَ بِسَمْعِهَا, and that she protected you with her hearing, وَبَصَرِهَا, and her eyesight, وَيَدِهَا, and her hands, وَرِجْلِهَا, and her feet, وَشَعْرِهَا, and her hair, وَبَشَرِهَا, and her skin, وَجَمِيعِ جَوَارِحِهَا, and all of her faculties, مُسْتَبْشِرَةً بِذَلِكَ, happily doing so. فرحة, glad to do so, موابلة, tolerant, happy to do so, محتملة لما فيه مكروهها, tolerant of the hardships that she might undergo, despite the fact that she's protecting you. وألمها, despite the hardship she might go through, despite the pain she might go through. وثقلها, despite the heaviness that she feels as she carries you. وغمها, and the depression that she goes through. Everybody knows that a woman, when she's pregnant, she goes through ups and downs. She feels a sense of depression because her hormones and the release of her hormones affect her greatly, affect her mood. Until حتى دفعتها عنك يد القدرة وأخرجتك إلى الأرض. Until she stayed this way, tolerating all of this, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed her to be able to push us out into this world. فَرَضِيَتْ أَن تَشْبَعَ وَتَجُوعُ هِيَ. And so she accepted for herself that you are full while she has been left hungry. وَتَكْسُوكَ وَتَعْرَى, that you are clothed while she may be bare. وَتَرْوِيكَ وَتَظْمَأ, and that your thirst is quenched while she may remain thirsty. وَتُظِلُّكَ وَتَضْحَى, and she would shade you, even though it meant that she would be scorched under the sun. وَتُنَعِّمَكَ بِبُؤْسِهَا, and she ensures that you are bountiful and blessed, even though she may be struggling, in order for you to feel Allah's blessings. وَتُلَذِّذُكَ بِالنَّوْمِ بِأَرَقِهَا, and she sacrifices her own sleep just so that you can sleep comfortably. وَكَانَ بَطْنُهَا لَكَ وِعَاءً, and her belly, meaning her womb, for you was a container. وَحِجْرُهَا لَكَ حِوَاءٌ, and her lap and her arms for you were encompassing. وَثَدْيُهَا لَكَ سِقَاءٌ, and her breasts for you were a source of nourishment. وَنَفْسُهَا لَكَ وِقَاءٌ, and she sacrificed herself to protect you. تُبَاشِرُ حَرَّ الدُّنْيَا, she endured the heat of the world, وَبَرْدِهَا, and its coldness, دُونَك, so that you can feel the coolness on a hot day and the warmth on a cool day. فَتَشْكُرَهَا عَلَى قَدْرِ ذَلِكَ, and therefore you must thank her in that amount. وَلَا تَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهِ, and you will not be able to, إِلَّا بِعَوْنِ اللَّهِ وَتَوْفِيقِهِ, except with the help of Allah and success from Him. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So let's take a look at the action items. The Imam Salamullahi alayhi basically told us in this right several things. Number one, he's talking about our mindset. We should setting our mindset. Number one, know that she carried you where no one carries anywhere else. Contemplate over that, he's telling us. Know that she fed you from where no one feeds anyone else. Number three, know that she protected you with all of her faculties with optimism. And number four, know that she tolerated hardships, pain, heaviness, depression until she brought you into this world with the help of Allah. 5, she went hungry as long as you ate. 6, she chose to clothe you over herself. 7, she endured thirst as long as your thirst was quenched. 8, she shaded you while she endured the sun. 9, she ensured that you were bountiful while she struggled. 10, she sacrificed her sleep so that you can sleep comfortably. 11, her belly was a protection for you. Her arms encompassed you. She nursed you. She sacrificed herself to protect you. She endured the heat of the world to keep you cool. She endured the cool of the world to keep you warm. Thank her in that amount, and you won't be able to, except with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So often what happens here is I get the question, well, does my mother have a greater right upon me than my father? Well, while the mother endured and carried and protected and fed us from her heart and so on, our very existence we would not have if it wasn't for the father. And see here the right of the father, فَأَن تَعْلَمَ أَنَّهُ أَصْلُكَ, to know that he is your origin, وَأَنَّكَ فَرْعُهُ, and that you branch out from him, وَأَنَّكَ لَوْلَاهُ لَمْ تَكُنْ, and that if it wasn't for him, you would not be. So if you would not be, then you would not be in your mother's womb. Agreed? Right?
Agreed, correct.
So there's this misconception that the mother has a greater right than the father, even though, and what they use is they say, well, doesn't Allah, the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, your mother, your mother, your mother, and then your father, right? Our ulama, they tell us that the father does not need as much attention as a mother does. And so it's very important for us to make sure that we give our mothers 3 times the attention that we give our fathers. But that doesn't not necessarily mean that we should love our fathers 3 times or our mothers 3 times more than our fathers. Because if it wasn't for our fathers, we would not be. We wouldn't even know our mothers, right? It takes a sperm to fertilize an egg, right? So this is the other thing that our scholars tell us to make sure that we correct in terms of information, because some people, unfortunately, they side by their mothers when they have issues and they leave their fathers. But this is an incorrect behavior. And some, unfortunately, what ends up happening is they end up catering more for the mother and forgetting about their father. This is not what that hadith means. It does not mean that when hardship strikes within a family that one should abandon their father. Because if it wasn't for your father, you would not be. Right? Agreed? Does everybody agree or no? Do you see the point of view of our scholars?
Agreed, Sheikh.
All right. So here, of course, just remind you, فَمَهْمَا رَأَيْتَ فِي نَفْسِكَ مِمَّا يُعْجِبْكَ, for whatever you see in yourself that you like, فَعْلَمْ أَنَّ أَبَاكَ أَصْلُ النِّعْمَةِ عَلَيْكَ فِيهِ, know that your father is the origin of that blessing upon you. And thank Allah and show him gratitude, or thank Allah and show him gratitude in that amount, right? And you won't be able to do so without the help of Allah. So this is a huge undertaking, of course, right? To be able to fulfill those rights. Now, what I want to do is I want to also give the right of the child. So for those who are parents who are watching, inshallah, this is a very important right to learn about. Normally, I would do it in another class, but alhamdulillah, we're doing well on time. So does anybody have any questions about the right of the mother or the right of the father before we commence? Okay. So let's look at the right of the child. For those who, inshallah, will get married and have children, or for those who already have kids. And we'll take a look at the summary of the action items as well. So what does he say? He says, وَأَمَّا حَقُّ وَلَدِكَ, as for the right of your child, فَتَعْلَمَ, for it is that you must know, أَنَّهُ مِنْكَ وَمُضَافٌ إِلَيْكَ, that he is from you, he originates from you, and he is added to you. Where? فِي عَاجِلِ الدُّنْيَا, in this world, بِخَيْرِهِ وَشَرِّهِ, in the good that he does and in the evil that comes from him. وَأَنَّكَ مَسْئُولٌ عَمَّا وَلَّيْتَهُ مِنْ حُسْنِ الْأَدَبِ, and know that you are responsible for teaching him or her the following: good manners, وَالدَّلَالَةِ عَلَى رَبِّهِ, and proving to him the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So now you might say, well, I don't have the knowledge to teach him. Well, put him in a class in which he can learn, right, from a scholar, okay, how to prove the existence of Allah. Oh, I don't have good manners to teach him. Put him in classes where he can learn good manners. We have those classes in the Knowledge Seekers for different age groups. And then he says, وَالْمَعُونَةِ لَهُ عَلَى طَاعَتِهِ فِيكَ وَفِي نَفْسِهِ. He says, and it is also your responsibility as a parent to help him to be obedient to you. Don't overburden him to the point where you push him to go against you. You push him so hard that he ends up just dismissing you, or God forbid, saying something that is not nice to you, right? And you say, why did he treat me this way? Well, maybe you pressured him too much, right? Maybe you didn't allow him mutanaffas, a space to be able to breathe. Everybody needs space to breathe. Sometimes us parents, what we do is we want something from our child in lih, in hin. You keep repeating over and over and over and over and over, right, what you want, and you don't give him an opportunity to think, an opportunity to breathe, an opportunity to have time to give you what you're asking for, right? And that's important to do. And many of us, we look at ourselves and we say, no, 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 we are giving. We didn't put, but no, in actual fact, if we replay the video of that moment or those days or those hours, we would have seen that in actual fact, we did do that, right? So help your child to be obedient to you and himself. In front of others, don't berate him. Don't put him down. Don't embarrass him, because that's also a form of negative pressure you're putting on him. There's this beautiful hadith by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad,
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
in which he says that when you speak to your child, if there's something that your child did that was wrong, never expose him or say anything to him in front of others. Take him aside where nobody can hear you and tell him what he did wrong. And of course, ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة. Call to the way of your Lord through wisdom and good admonition. Determine whether it's the right time or not. It might not be the right time. Maybe he's not in the right mood to listen. Be mindful of that. أعنه على طاعتك والمعونة له على طاعته فيك وفي نفسه. Right? You want him to benefit. You want him to be good. Don't embarrass him in front of others. No, I don't embarrass him. Yeah, but you made fun of him in front of others. That's embarrassing. Oh, I was just joking. Well, that joke is ala hsabah. It's on his account. Right? This is something we commonly do, unfortunately. We have to be mindful of it. Right? Ahibbati, izzati. I tell you, my dear brothers and my dear sisters, we don't know how much our words and our actions affect those who are loved to us. Sometimes we take for granted that they are from us. We take for granted that they are our children. We take for granted that they will forgive us no matter what. But that doesn't mean that we should embarrass them in front of others and disrespect them or bring them down or humiliate them in front. No, I wasn't humiliating him. Yeah, but if you were making fun of him, it's humiliating. If you embarrass someone, it's humiliating, right? You know, Prophet Muhammad even has a hadith in tarbiyah, in raising your children, that you shouldn't even tell your child or advise your child or say to your child that he did something wrong in front of their other siblings. You know, you should separate the siblings when you want to talk to them, right? Why? So that you don't embarrass them in front of their own siblings, their own flesh and blood, because that is still harmful. So then, وَالْمَعُونَةِ لَهُ عَلَى طَاعَتِهِ فِيكَ وَفِي نَفْسِهِ. That means it's the responsibility of the parent to ensure that his child stays obedient to them and obedient to his Lord, right? And that's by not overburdening them. Now, we're not talking about overburdening with salah. Salah is wajib. So you have to make sure that they pray, right? But as you told them once, you told them twice, 3 times, right? What are you supposed to do? Beat him? No, you don't beat him, right? Even the hadith that says فَضْرِبْهُ, it's فَضْرِبْهُ بِسِوَاكٍ, which means just use a toothbrush and nudge him. That's it, okay? Your goal is to teach them from a young age. As they grow older with every stage in their life, you can't treat them as you did when they were children, right? We're stuck in أَدِّبْهُمْ سَبْعٍ. Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq is narrated to have said, لَعِبْهُمْ سَبْعٍ أَدِّبْهُمْ سَبْعٍ صَاحِبْهُمْ سَبْعٍ. For the first 7 years, what you want to do is let them play or learn through play. The second 7, teach them manners. And the third 7, befriend them. Now what happens is most of us, we get stuck in that middle 7. We are it. I wish that the ta'deeb that the Imam is talking about, we actually understand. We think that ta'deeb meaning fixing their behavior means humiliating them or beating them or God forbid or verbally abusing them. No, this is not what ta'deeb is. If we read the other riwayat that explain this riwayah, and I have a full course on child rearing from 0 to 7, the first 7, the second 7, and the third 7. All 3 separate workshops and seminars. So for those who are interested, I highly recommend that you sign up for those if you have children or are planning to have children, because it really helps you understand what this hadith means. And I'll give you really quickly. You know, Adibhum, he says, وَلَازِمْهُ نَفْسَكَ سَبْعًا, which means let him be next to you for 7 years, which means actions speak louder than words. Wherever you go, make sure your child is with you so that they learn from your manners. So if my manners are bad, then my child will learn bad manners. So then that means first and foremost, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. I have to change myself first before I expect others to change, even if they're on my own family, right? We have parents, unfortunately, in their households, they don't realize the sort of damage that they do for to their kids. I had this one brother who came to me. He said, I grew up, my dad would walk around in the house with his underwear on. So until you go outside, you wear your underwear. You go outside, you wear the best of clothes in front of the closest people to you. You walk around your house in your underwear. Astaghfirullah, a'yadu billah. Right? Wallah, because he doesn't want his nice clothes to get dirty. How does that make any sense? وحدث ولا حرج. And there's so many examples. I had a brother who came to me one day at one of the majalis. After the majlis, he comes to me and he tells me, Shaykhna, when I'm 18, I'm leaving the house. I said, why? And he pulled out his arm and he showed me cigarette burns on his arm. He told me his father would hit him with a belt and make sure he gets hit with the buckle. This is a person who has a sickness. How could you do that to your own flesh and blood? Terrorizing you wouldn't do that with a stranger. How could you do this with your own flesh and blood? Right? So we have to make sure that we treat. I had this brother one day. I remember I was training some youth in media, and we were shooting a show. It was called Brother to Brother. It was a show from brothers for Mu'min brothers, and it was Muslim to Muslim. It was for youth, from Muslim youth to Muslim youth. So he said in his interview, he was interviewing someone, and he said, we have to make sure that we're formal and that we're dressed the best and we act the best, outside the home. When you come home, he said, you can be yourself. I remember after, he was done talking, I called a cut. I said, cut, please. And I spoke with him separately. I said, I just want to know what you meant. He said, yeah, I meant, you put on your best face when you're outside. When you're in the house, you're yourself. I said, so you're basically preaching to people that they have to be two-faced, right? They have to be a different person when they're outside of the house than they are inside the house with their family. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. You're good with everybody in public, but then inside you're a monster. He said, oh, that's not what I meant. I said, yeah, but you have to be careful what you say because, and unfortunately, a lot of people are like that. So we have to be mindful. And it struck me once. I remember when I was working with, a team of mu'mineen, and I was young mu'mineen, and I was, extra kind and extra careful and extra careful not to hurt their feelings, extra mindful of their likes and their dislikes, ensuring that I'm very careful in the words that I use. And I started questioning myself. I said, am I like that with my own family? Because I do it with the stranger, am I really doing that with my own family? And that's a question I think we all have to ask ourselves. We have to all make sure that on the inside and on the outside, we're the same, right? Otherwise, we become munafiqeen, right? We have qalbayn or fi jawfin wahid, like there's two hearts within us, a good heart and a bad heart, good actions and bad actions, and we only reserve the good to the stranger and we leave the bad to the closest people to us. I know nobody's like that here, but I think it's important for us to remind ourselves and remind the mu'mineen as well. Then he says, فَمُثَابٌ عَلَى ذَلِكَ وَمُعَاقَبٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you based on that, and He will punish you based on that. Based on what? Based on that it is your responsibility to do what? To know that He is from you, in everything that and He has added to you, which means you're responsible for Him. You'll be held accountable in this world for the good that He does and the evil that He does. That's number one. Number two, that you are responsible to teach him good manners and to teach him how to prove Allah, or provide him a teacher who does. And thirdly, that you are to help this child be obedient to you by not overburdening them, so that they can be obedient to you and obedient to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded them to do. And then he says, if you do so, فَمُثَابٌ عَلَى ذَلِكَ. If you don't, فَمُعَاقَبٌ. Right? If you do, Allah will reward you. If you don't, Allah will punish you. فَعْمَلْ فِي أَمْرِهِ. Therefore, make sure. This is a commanding verb. اعمل, فَعْمَلْ. Make sure you work on his affairs. It is work. It's tiring work too, I'll tell you. Right? Abu Ahmed will tell you. It's tiring work. Right? Raising a child is not easy. Your parents will tell you. Right? But you're working on this child's affairs. عمل what? عمل المتزين بحسن أثره. Act as though, imagine if you were going to paint a beautiful painting, you would use the best paints, right? You would make sure that your painting is something beautiful. So you should do the same thing with your child. Make sure that you adorn yourself with the right tools, right? Get the workshops that you need, the seminars that you need, so that you can read from the seerah, the sunnah of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how he treated an Imam al-Hasan al-Hussein. He would let them ride on his back while he's praying, right? He wouldn't break his prayer. He wouldn't prevent them from being there when he's praying. Rather, even in Salat al-Jama'ah, they would be with him, right? He would play with them, right? He would describe them as being rayhanatai, right? He would honor them and respect them. If I want my child to honor me and respect me when I grow up, then I need to teach him how to do that through actions, right? Through my own actions. So make sure that if you want to be adorned by him and rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for how well you raised him, then make sure that you treat him and that you work on him as though you're working on a beautiful painting that will then adorn you, right? عمل المتزين بحسن أثره عليه في عاجل الدنيا. So when you work on his akhlaq, you work on his logic, you work on bringing him closer to Allah, you work on this child being the best reflection of all that is good, then know that he will be, that with the effects that are the result of the cause, you being the cause of teaching him all of this, and the effects being these beautiful traits and characteristics that this child has, know that that will be the best adornment for you in this world. المعذر إلى ربه فيما بينك وبينه بحسن القيام عليه والأخذ منه له من. So teach him such that he excuses you before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that you fulfilled his rights upon you by taking care of him properly and taking from him, or taking away those things that are not good from him, away from him. وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. There's no power to do so without the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let's take a look at the action items. Number one, know that this child is from you and added to you in his good deeds and his bad deeds in this world. Teach them good manners, proving Allah. Help them to be obedient to you and to themselves, meaning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And work on their affairs and teach them such that the child excuses you before Allah. Says, my father, my mother, they fulfilled their responsibility and the rights that I had upon them by taking care of them properly. And you can't do so without the help of Allah. There's a beautiful part of the Prophet's will that he left behind, and he left this to Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi. In this beautiful hadith that is reported to us, it says, في وصية النبي صلى الله عليه وآله لعلي عليه السلام قال. So in some of the advice that the Prophet dispensed to Ali ibn Abi Talib salamullahi alayhi, he said, Ya Ali, O Ali, حق الولد على والده, the right of the child on their parent, أن يحسن اسمه وأدبه, that he does well to name him well and to teach him good manners. ويضعه موضعا صالحا, that he places him in a good environment. صالحا here, in a good righteous environment where he will learn good akhlaq, he will learn his deen well. وحق الوالد على ولده, as for the right of the parent on the child, ألا يسميه باسمه, that he shouldn't give him his own name. You know how they have Richard Jr., Richard Sr., Richard the First, the Third, the Fourth. He said, that's not something that we do. ألا يسميه باسمه ولا يمشي بين يديه ولا يجلس أمامه, that he does not walk behind him and he does not sit in front of him. ولا يدخل معه الحمام, and that he should not enter the bathroom with him. Ya Ali, O Ali, la'anallahu walidain, may Allah remove His mercy from parents, hamala waladahuma ala uquqihima, that caused their child to fall into uquq. And uquq is really interesting because uquq means to be disobedient to your parents to the point that it is punishable. Now, what's interesting is that uquq can be something as simple as making your parents sad or disappointed. That's uquq. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala counts that as a sin. It's very sinful. So He says what? He says, look, Allah will remove His mercy from you if you cause your child to fall into uquq. If you pressure your child so much that they end up disrespecting you, right? Then Allah has removed His rahmah from you, O parent. He says, Ali, يلزم الوالدين من عقوق ولدهما ما يلزم الولد لهما من عقوقهما. He says that the parents have a responsibility to ensure that their child does not fall into being disobedient to them, as much as the child must also treat their parents in a manner that doesn't push them away from Him as well through their actions or their words. Ya Ali, rahimallahu walidain hamala waladahuma ala birrihima. O Ali, may Allah have the mercy, place His mercy or bestow His mercy upon parents who help their kids to be obedient to them, voluntarily obedient, not just forcefully. Ya Ali, O Ali, man ahzana walidayhi faqad aqqahuma. O Ali, a person who saddens their parents, who makes them sad, just making them sad, imagine, has fallen into uquq, right? Which is a major sin. And by the way, the word aq, if you look it up, you'll find that it means to basically cut off, right? That technically, literally, that's what it means. So if I make my parent, my dad or my mom, just as much as just being sad, and there are many things that I take for granted that I think aren't big deals, but will make my parents sad. For example, if I tell my child to do something and they take forever to do it, that saddens a parent, because then they're thinking to themselves, well, why? When you needed stuff, I never hesitated. I gave you what you wanted right away. Right? All that I did, I dedicated my life to you, and you can't as much as just do what I told you and just do it quickly. Right? And that makes a parent sad. When they call their child once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and it takes that long for them to respond, that makes a parent sad. Right, Abu Ahmed?
Correct. Absolutely right.
Of course, Abu Ahmed doesn't experience this stuff, but as a parent, if that were to happen, it makes you sad. It cuts you inside, right? You feel like you've been injured, right? You feel sad. So here's a quick summary. The right of the child on their parent is that they name them well, but not the parent's name. They teach them manners, that they place them in a good environment, a good salih environment, a righteous environment, that you should not drive your child to falling into uquq, that you do not do uquq of your child, meaning that you don't get your child to a point where they fall into uquq, and your child doesn't get you into a point where you fall into disconnecting with them, right? 6, that you help your child to be obedient to you. And here I put a warning: a person who saddens their parents has fallen into uquq, which is a major sin. So as for the right of the parent on his child, the Prophet said, do not walk in front of your parent, do not sit in front of your parent, do not enter the bathroom with your parent. The right of the parent on the child, on his child. So make sure that, so of course now you might say, well, hang on, shouldn't the child, if they're young, walk in front of the parent? Yes, of course, when they're a child. But when they're older, they should not walk ahead of their parent. They should respect and honor their parent by allowing them to go ahead of them, right? Sitting in front of the parent, same thing. You only allow your child to sit in front of you when they're young, but when they're older, they have to, we say in Arabic, they have to bring you forward, right, and honor you. And then lastly, of course, going into the bathroom with the parent, there's a hadith that says that it is makruh for us to take our kids to the bathroom. By age 6, they should know how to clean themselves and wash themselves. And this is the full right. If you want to take a picture of it, it's in Arabic for those who want it. Inshallah, tomorrow of course is Eid, so tomorrow we won't be having class because I'm sure you'll all be busy celebrating Eid and so on. But inshallah, we can maybe do it on Thursday of this week, or if you like, next week. We can, of course, in the group agree which day we can do it. And from this day onward, inshallah, we'll be doing our classes, basically one class a week, bi'awnihi ta'ala. After this lesson 14, our goal, inshallah, is to start the third series, which is the Practical Ethics series, series 3, in which we learn what a believer does not do from Surah Al-Hujurat. هذا والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين والفاتحة على أرواح المرحومين مسبوقة مشفوعة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Yes, Brother Yusuf.
I got a question. سؤال هسا الأب والأم إذا if they get upset with you and أنت تجادلهم هل هذا يعتبر هم من عقوق؟
نعم.
يعني if for a good reason why you had to because you're trying to persuade them or تفهمهم إنه ليش إنه you think that way هل هذا هم من يعتبر عقوق؟
If you're doing it in a respectful manner that doesn't sadden them or hurt them, then it's fine. But
Okay.
if not, then it would be uquq, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Any other questions? We have room for one more question. And then I have to head off to my other class. No? Okay then. So inshallah, Allah accepts all of your deeds. Tomorrow is Eid. I ask that Allah, inshallah, makes it a successful Eid. According to the narrations, Eid is only Eid for those who were able to be successful in fasting this holy month. We ask, inshallah, that we are successful and that we will be able to receive all of the rewards, inshallah, on Eid day and after. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts all of your deeds and all of your dua and all of your amal and your dedication to knowledge seeking and gaining the knowledge this holy month of Ramadan. Please forgive me for any deficiencies that have come from me. I want to thank Al-Hajji who brought me to the community so that inshallah I can serve. We recite Al-Fatiha for his dearly departed relatives and the relatives of all of you who have joined us and those of the mu'mineen and mu'minat around the world, and we ask that Allah hastens the appearance of Imam al-Hujjah ببركة الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أحسنتم شيخنا.
أحسن الله عليكم. الله يحفظكم. وطبعا نقدم شكر للأخ سجاد اللي he recited for us, as well as Haji Sami, Allah يوفقه, as well as Brother Sharif who recited for us. May Allah bless you all and those who made the program possible. When I was in Memphis with Brother Yusuf and Brother Ahmed setting up the live stream, Brother Shahid doing the graphic design, and Al-Hajji Abu Ahmed providing the venue. May Allah bless you all, inshaAllah, and all those that attended. آخر دعوان الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين والفاتحة على أرواح المرحومين مسبوقة مشفوعة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
والسلام عليكم.